It started with a single scream, sharp, distant, and immediately swallowed by silence. We weren't even in the village yet. I was driving. The gravel crunched under the tires like brittle bones, and Ava was asleep in the passenger seat, her head pressed awkwardly against the window. Our backpack sat in the back seat, full of camera gear, notebooks, and just enough food to last 2 days. We were only supposed to film an abandoned town for the channel. Just a creepy ghost village piece to boost views. Nothing more. The name of the place had been scrubbed off every digital map. Only an old man in a hardware store 3 towns over still remembered it. Kormilovka, he'd said. No one lives there anymore. When we asked why, he just shook his head. Not since the night it emptied. I didn't ask for clarification. I should have. We got there just before sunset. The first thing I noticed was the sky. It didn't look right. The clouds hung low and yellowish, like smoke trapped under a lid. The air was heavy, thick enough to taste. No birds, no insects. The trees along the edge of the road didn't move, even though I was sure I felt wind. Kormilovka, Ava mumbled, waking as we pulled past the old wooden sign. Most of the letters had rotted away. Only a few jagged scraps of white paint clung to the wood like peeling skin. We stopped the car in front of the first house. It looked frozen, like the residents had just vanished mid-routine. A rusted tricycle lay overturned in the yard. A window curtain stirred slightly, though I still couldn't feel any wind. Ava grabbed her camera and started filming. We're standing at the edge of Kormilovka, an abandoned village somewhere in northern Russia, she whispered into the mic. No official records, no explanation. According to locals, it emptied in a single night. Without a trace, I added, trying to sound confident. But my stomach was twisted. Something about this place felt wrong in a way I couldn't name. We moved house by house. Everything had been left behind. Clothes on lines, toys on beds, food rotted in pots on stoves. It didn't feel like people left. It felt like they were taken. There were no signs of violence, no blood, no broken doors, just emptiness. Then we reached the town square. The first thing I noticed was the circle, a perfect ring of scorched earth, about 10 feet wide, blackened into the concrete. In the center, an old well, its stones slick and dark, covered in something green that didn't quite look like moss. I stepped closer. The silence was deafening. "Hey," Eva said. Her voice was small. I turned around. She pointed to the edge of the square. Every door and window in every visible house was wide open now. We hadn't seen that before. "Did you open those?" I asked, already knowing the answer. She shook her head slowly, and then we heard it again. A scream. Not a woman. Not a child. Something deeper. Too deep for a human throat. And it came from the well. Ava dropped her camera. It hit the ground with a muffled thud, and for a moment, that sound seemed impossibly loud. Too loud, like it didn't belong in the dead hush that surrounded the square. I was already moving, grabbing her arm, dragging her back from the well. The scream had stopped, but it hadn't faded. It had cut off, like someone, or something, had simply let go of the sound, mid-breath. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. We ran. But the road we'd come in on wasn't there. I know that sounds impossible. I know how crazy it sounds. But we circled the houses, past the town sign, and found nothing. Just trees. The same thick pines we'd passed before, only now they crowded in close. Too close. Trunks pressed together like teeth in a jaw. "We must have taken a wrong turn," I said, but even I didn't believe it. My voice came out hoarse and dry. Ava stared into the woods. We didn't turn. We stood there in silence, listening. The village, if it could still be called that, made no sound. No wind, no insects, no birds. just the gentle hum of something. Deeper, like a vibration you couldn't hear, only feel under your skin. We decided to go back to the square. Don't ask me why. I think part of us still believed this was some elaborate prank or hallucination. The ring of scorched earth still pulsed with faint heat. The well still waited, black and glistening. Eva picked up the camera again. It was still recording. She hit playback. The screen blinked to life, and we watched the last 10 minutes in silence. Our own voices, the heavy silence, the scream. But when it reached the well, the scream didn't stop. It looped, over and over, as if the camera had recorded something that reality itself had rejected. Like the sound had been too real, too raw, and our ears had shut it out. But the mic hadn't. "I want to go," Eva said, and I didn't argue. We turned back toward the houses, thinking maybe, just maybe, one of them had a working radio or a flare or something. But this time, the houses didn't look empty. Shadows moved behind curtains. A door creaked open, slowly, even though there was still no wind. At the far end of the street, a figure stepped out from behind a house. It was tall. Too tall. Its limbs too long. Its face, if it had one, was hidden behind a pale, distorted oval. It didn't walk. It glided, smoothly, soundlessly. Eva grabbed my hand. We backed away, but the thing didn't move toward us. It turned and vanished into the alley behind the house. We ran again. Not toward the woods this time, but deeper into the village, past rows of houses that felt more alive with every step. That was the moment I realized something horrifying. We weren't alone. There were people in the windows. Not standing, not watching, just faces. Pressed to the glass, dozens of them, identical. Wide eyes, expressionless mouths, each tilted slightly to the side, as if they didn't quite understand what they were seeing. They weren't blinking. They weren't breathing. They weren't human. And yet, they all looked like Eva. I swear to you, they all had her face. Every single window we passed, every glass pane. Frozen replicas of Eva, some younger, some older, some twisted like reflections in warped carnival mirrors. Their eyes tracked us, but nothing else moved. Eva was whispering my name over and over like a prayer. "I'm here," I kept saying. "I'm here." We found a house with the front door open, not ajar, but gaping, as if it had been waiting. I don't remember deciding to go inside. I think our bodies just moved. Anything to get away from those windows. The house was dark, no electricity, dust on every surface, but not the kind that collects over time. This dust was thick, clotted, like ash. I could see our footprints behind us, sharp and alone. Inside, it was colder. Not in a winter way, more like something had sucked all the warmth out of the walls. There was a hallway. At the end, a closed door. And behind it, a light. Flickering. I didn't want to go, but Eva had already started down the hallway. The floor creaked beneath her feet, the sound swallowed by the thick silence that pressed in around us. She reached the door and opened it slowly. It was a classroom, desks arranged in neat rows, a chalkboard with no writing, and in the very center of the room, a radio. Old, rusted, still humming. That same deep signal tone we'd heard earlier. Eva stepped inside. I stayed in the doorway. My legs didn't want to move. She touched the radio, and it hissed to life. A voice crackled through the static. "Eva. Eva, I told you not to come back." It was her own voice. Then something else joined it. A low, wet, clicking sound, like something breathing through waterlogged lungs. The light overhead buzzed, then exploded with a pop, casting the room into flickering shadow. I saw movement in the back of the classroom, dozens of figures, crawling, jerking, Faces like hers, but wrong, like they'd been melted and rebuilt too many times, all moving toward the front, toward her. "Ava, get out!" I screamed. She turned, but her eyes were unfocused, like something was calling her, pulling her. The figures came faster. I grabbed her and yanked her out of the room just as something hit the inside of the door hard enough to crack the wood. We ran. No more thinking. No more hoping. Just running. Through hallways that didn't look the same, past walls that seemed to close in tighter and tighter. Somehow, we reached the street again. The square. The well. The forest was open again. We didn't ask why. We ran into the trees and didn't stop until we saw the van, still parked, doors open, lights off. We drove without speaking. Hours passed. The sun rose, but it didn't feel like morning. It felt like something old had been disturbed, something ancient. Back at home, Eva didn't say much. Neither did I. She packed her things and left that same day. She doesn't return my calls now. But sometimes, late at night, I check her social media. There's nothing there, except one new photo she posted 2 days after we left the village. A mirror selfie, her face smiling back. And right behind her, in the reflection, a dozen versions of the same smile, watching through the glass. All of them standing still, except one. One is walking toward her, with no eyes and no mouth, just a blank oval face, and it's getting closer. You ever seen a house vanish before your eyes? Not burned, not demolished, just gone. That's what I'm telling you. I saw a house that only existed at night, and I think something inside it saw me back. I moved into the apartment in late October, a short-term sublet from a guy who'd been relocated for work. Cozy enough. Second floor, thin walls, the usual city noise. But the view from the living room window? That's where things get strange. Across the street, there's this vacant lot. You know the kind. Overgrown grass, chain link fence, maybe used to be something decades ago, but now just forgotten land. I walked past it the day I moved in. Nothing but weeds and broken bottles, and an old "no trespassing" sign barely clinging to the fence. But that night, I saw lights. I was brushing my teeth, looked out the window, and there it was. A 2-story colonial-style house, big front porch, windows lit up warm like someone was cooking or playing cards inside. I actually smiled. The kind of house you imagine in a quiet neighborhood. A place with dinners and laughter, and maybe a lazy golden retriever on the steps. Except, it wasn't there earlier. I figured maybe I'd just missed it somehow. Or maybe it was set back behind the lot and I hadn't noticed. City planning is weird like that sometimes. Still, it nagged at me. So the next morning, I checked again. No house, just the same cracked concrete. Tufts of wild grass and rusting fence. No porch, no driveway, no house. Gone. I stood there for a full minute, waiting for my eyes to adjust or my brain to catch up, but it didn't change. That night, the lights were back. Same house, same glow in the windows, and silhouettes now, people moving behind the curtains. I could swear I saw someone pause right at the window, maybe sipping a cup of tea. The third night, I stayed up. I turned off my lights so the glare wouldn't get in the way, pulled a chair to the window, and waited. 9:02 p.m. The porch light flicked on. I felt this weird tug in my chest, like the house was inviting, or remembering me. I called my friend Tara and told her about it. She joked it was probably one of those Halloween pop-up haunted houses. I laughed along, but even she could tell I didn't mean it. By the 5th night, I started drawing it. Not because I'm an artist, I'm not, but because I needed proof. If I could show someone a sketch, maybe it wouldn't feel so ridiculous. Each night it returned, identical down to the warped wood railing and the same flicker of light in the attic window. One night, I thought I saw a figure in the front yard, just standing, facing my direction. That's when I stopped drawing. I wanted to believe it was just some strange dream, that I'd fallen asleep with the TV on and my mind was playing tricks. But I never fell asleep, and the house kept coming back. Then the night I decided to film it. Tripod, full charge, night mode. I set it by the window and hit record. And in the morning, the house wasn't on the footage. The lot was there, dimly lit by street lamps, but no structure, no lights, no silhouettes, no house. Only static. A short burst of it, right around 9:02 p.m. A flicker, like the lens had blinked. And right before that glitch, for just a split second, there was a shape in the window of my apartment, like someone was watching me from inside. But I had been alone all night. I replayed that video at least 30 times. Same result every time. The static, the flicker, and then that frame. One single frame where it looked like someone was standing right behind me in the apartment. I paused it, enhanced it. It was too blurry to make out a face, just a shoulder, the curve of a jaw maybe. But they were close, too close. I started keeping the lights on after that. Slept with a flashlight under my pillow, like a kid afraid of the dark. I even taped a newspaper over the window, thinking if I couldn't see the house, maybe it wouldn't see me. But that didn't stop the sound. The next night, 9:02 p.m., I heard something. Not from outside, but from the hallway inside my apartment. 3 knocks. Slow, deliberate. Not at the door, on the wall. The one facing the vacant lot. I stood frozen in the kitchen, dish towel in hand, heart pounding like it was trying to crack my ribs. I told myself it was the pipes. Old building. Maybe someone else in another unit. But then it happened again. This time it came from the bathroom, not the door. The mirror. A faint tapping, as if someone was rapping their fingernail against the glass. I crept over and stared at my own reflection. The light was on. Everything was normal. Except, behind me, in the reflection, the hallway looked just a little darker. Just a little longer. I turned around. Nothing. Looked back in the mirror. Hallway normal again. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I asked my upstairs neighbor, Janine, if she'd ever seen a house across the street. She looked confused. Said number, just the lot. Been that way since the laundromat burned down 20 years ago. You okay? She asked. You look pale. I lied. Said I wasn't sleeping well. That night, I sat with my phone ready. I figured if the camera didn't catch it, maybe Liv Eyes would. 9:01 p.m. Nothing. 9:02. Porch light on. This time, I looked directly at it, and someone looked back. A man, I think. Standing on the porch. Just staring. I couldn't make out the details, but I swear he was smiling. Not in a warm way. In a waiting way. Like he'd been expecting me. That's when my phone buzzed. It was a text. No name. Just a number I didn't recognize. You left your light on. He likes the dark. I stared at the message, every hair on my arm standing up. I turned off the phone, pulled the batteries. I shut off every light in the apartment, then crouched in the hallway, trying not to breathe. But it wasn't enough. I heard the knock again, not at the door, not on the wall. This time, it came from inside the closet. 3 knocks, then silence. When I opened it, nothing. Just my coats. But one of them, the long gray one I'd packed away last spring, was damp, like someone had worn it. I didn't open that closet again. Not for a week. Instead, I started sleeping on the couch, fully clothed, with a flashlight in one hand and a hammer under a pillow. I didn't even know what I planned to do with it. The idea of swinging it at something, felt both absurd and necessary. Every night at 9:02 p.m., the porch light across the street clicked on. Always the same dim yellow glow. The house was always the same, too. Weathered wood, crooked porch railing, dusty windows. And that figure on the porch, sometimes standing, sometimes sitting in a rocking chair, always looking, always waiting. It became a routine. I'd watch from the couch. I'd check the mirror. I'd listen for the knock. And then, 2 nights ago, it changed. The house didn't appear at 9:02. The light didn't turn on. Instead, my doorbell rang. It was like ice water down my spine. No one rings doorbells at night in this building. Ever. Everyone knows better. I stood at the peephole and didn't see anyone, but the hallway lights had gone out. All of them. Just dark. And I swear, just before I stepped away, something moved in front of the door. Something close to the floor. I backed away slowly, sat down, tried to breathe. A few minutes later, my TV, which was off, turned on by itself. Static. Then a voice, garbled, distant, but definitely a voice. "Let us in." Not "let me in." "Let us." That was 2 nights ago. I haven't slept since. I've covered the mirrors, boarded the windows. I turned off the breaker so nothing can power up on its own. But last night, when I stepped into the bathroom to splash water on my face, I heard breathing again. Except this time, it wasn't in the mirror. It was behind the bathroom curtain. I ripped it back. Nothing there. But the tub was wet. And a trail of muddy footprints, bare feet, led across the tile and stopped directly in front of me. I didn't even move. I just sat on the bathroom floor until the sun came up. This morning, I walked across the street. I stood where the house should be. Nothing. Just weeds, cracked pavement, rusted nails where maybe a fence used to be. No foundation. No ruins. No ash. Not even an old address marker. It was as if the land had never held anything at all. But when I turned around, facing my building, I saw something taped to my window. 3rd floor, dead center. A photo. Black and white. A photo of me. Sleeping. Taken from inside the apartment. And on the back, one handwritten sentence in blocky letters. "You were supposed to open the door.